It's very informal. So at any point, if you have a question or a clarification, feel free to raise your hand and we'll answer that. Again, very informal. So we're going to have a brief opening prayer. Then Anne-Marie's going to give us an overview of imagining the way forward, and that's really what this program is called, Imagining the Way Forward. Then we're going to talk about what motivated us to be part of this initiative, followed by Helene talking about her experience at Our Lady of Grace, which was where we gather for weekends for imagining the way forward. And then we'll have a time for open mic and then some closing remarks. So very simple, very flexible, and very open. So I'd like to begin just with a poem. And it's really a rough translation of Romans 4:18. And it's about hope. And this whole program is about hope. Hope nonetheless. Hope despite. Hope regardless. Hope still. Hope where we had ceased to hope. Hope amid what threatens hope. Hope with those who feed our hopes. Hope beyond what we had ever hoped for. Hope that draws us past our limits. Hope that defies expectation. Hope that questions what we have known. Hope that makes a way where there is none. Hope that takes us past our fears. Hope that calls us into new life. Hope that holds us well beyond death. Hope that blesses those to come. So sisters, I'm just going to ask Anne-Marie, who's really more qualified than any of us that are participating in this program and probably in the congregation, to talk about imagining the way forward. Anne-Marie?
Thank you, Nancy, and hello, sisters. I'm happy to have you in my office with me at the Leadership Conference of Women Religious in Silver Spring, Maryland. So it's great to be with you. And it's a great pleasure to talk to you a little bit about imagining the way forward, to give you some background about why it was started. So it's probably helpful for you to know that there's a whole large nationwide effort among many congregations of women religious to prepare their younger religious for what we know is going to be a very different religious life in the future. We know that our numbers are going to be much, much smaller in the pretty near future. And then, the world is changing so much. So even the needs that religious will be called upon to serve will be very different. So there are many different programs going on right now to help younger religious get ready for this unknown future. And while we can't ever know what that future will be or what it's going to require of us, the idea is that we want to do all that we can to prepare ourselves for that future. So our particular program that we've prepared for our own younger religious has three components to it. There's an education component, a relationship building component, and then a spiritual component. And we really believe that if we can, put time and effort into those three areas, then we can best prepare ourselves to face whatever it is that will be coming to us in the future. So the idea is that we would be as educated as we can be in the many different areas that we need to know about for the future, that we would do all we can to come to know one another. Unlike probably most of you who entered with large numbers of sisters in your band, so many of us entered with just one or two people, or maybe three or four. And then we've gone off to so many different areas that many of us really don't know one another very well beyond saying hello at a congregation gathering. So we hope that this will be a time to build our relationships, come to know one another better, and know who we are as we go into the future together. And then we know that the times ahead are going to be challenging. So we really want to make sure we have a really firm spiritual grounding that will prepare us to face those challenges together. So we've created, there's a committee in the congregation called the Leadership, Education, and Development Committee. And we've been working for a number of years, actually, to get this program together. And it's an 18-month program. It's offered over 4 weekends. And there's an expectation that each of the participants would engage in some reading and study, in some personal reflection, and that we would each participate in a small group to do some contemplative dialogue and sharing together on what we're learning and experiencing. And we've decided to offer this 18-month experience at 2 different times for cohorts of 15. So we're cohort 1. Nancy, Helene, and I are 3 members of the 15-member cohort. And the congregation, actually, we have a very sizable grant. We have a $70,000 grant from a foundation, a family foundation called GHR. And they so believe in what we are hoping to do that they gave us $70,000 to do this. So that's enabled us to use Our Lady of Grace as our meeting spot. We can pay the congregation for that. And it also enables us to hire Janet Mock. She's a sister of St. Joseph, and she's a former executive director of LCWR, a former executive director of the Religious Formation Conference, a former leader in her own community. There's probably nobody better prepared and qualified to accompany us in this process. So Janet is facilitating all the 4 weekends of our cohort and the 4 weekends of the next cohort. And she works with our planning committee very closely. So I'll just mention a couple of the hoped for outcomes of this program. One would be that we would be as prepared as possible to understand the complexities facing religious life today. And you know well that these are really changing times for all of our communities, and there's just so much to understand with what's happening in the world, within the church, within our own community. So how can we too best understand and best be prepared to respond to those changing and complex realities? And then another hoped for outcome is that we would increase our own confidence in ourselves and one another, that we can face those realities. And we won't just do them as problem solvers, but we can do them face those realities in very creative ways that will take the legacy of our congregation and bring it into the future in very viable ways. And then another really great outcome of this program is that once we complete it as so-called graduates of the program, we'll be able to join other sisters from all over the country who also have gone through similar programs. And those sisters now are beginning to network with one another, and there are programs that are also funded by the same foundation that's funding us that bring those sisters together and help them to continue their education and to get to know one another. Because as you can imagine, we're all going to have to go into the future together in religious life, all congregations. Nobody can be an individual congregation working on its own anymore. So this will be another really wonderful opportunity for our congregation to be more broadly connected with others across the country. And the last thing I just want to say about our program is that what we think is a very, very important part of it is what we're doing today, connecting with the wider congregation about what we're doing. We don't want to be 30 people doing something apart from the rest of the congregation. So that's why we're eager to tell you about what we're doing. We're so happy that you're praying with us through this process. We need your support, and we want to do anything that we can to help you understand what we're doing, to have you be participative in the program with us in any ways that you'd like to be. So that's a kind of a brief overview of what the program is, why it was started, and to help you to understand a little bit more, Nancy and Helene and I are going to share with you what brought us to the program. Why did we sign on to this? It's another thing that this is a voluntary program. So we each chose to be part of it. So I don't know if Helene, if you would want to start that?
Oh, sure. So hello, sisters. If you answer me, my phone will show your faces. So if everybody says hello, that'd be great. Hello. Good. It didn't pop up yet. I still see Anne Marie. Okay. So sisters, I prayed and prayed, do I feel called to do this program with these wonderful sisters for 2 years? And I also thought, do I have the time to commit to this? So after a while, it just became more clear to me that I definitely am called to do this. And I have to make the time for this. So it was a wonderful weekend, and I'm looking forward to the next 3. I actually felt like it was Christmas by the time I got there. It was so exciting. So I'm glad that the Holy Spirit made it known to me that, I should be there with the other sisters. So thank you. Nancy, you want to go?
Sure. So a couple of thoughts, sisters. One is I entered with 8 other young women, and all of those young women have left the congregation for various reasons. And I think I'm one of the older ones in the total group of 30. And so I really didn't really know a lot of our younger members. I know them by name, I know them by ministry, but and I know some of them from having served on chapter planning committee and other kinds of committees with them. But I didn't know them as persons, and I think that is that really, really important. And so I saw this as an opportunity to build relationship and to enter into deeper relationships with the sisters in my congregation, especially the younger membership. I also saw it as an opportunity to I guess to grow deeper into the needs of the congregation and to be able to come together and to talk about those needs, and then to together to go forward into the future with a great deal of hope. So that's kind of, in a nutshell, why I wanted to join. I had no hesitancy. I wanted to do this, and I have loved every minute of it. And it's been really wonderful for me. So, Anne Marie?
Well, I couldn't imagine not being a part of it. And I have a slightly different vantage point because my own work at the Leadership Conference of Women Religious has taken me into other efforts of other communities and other groupings that are offering similar programs to their own members. So I've been watching those programs over the years thinking, oh, it would be so wonderful if we could have something like this for our own community. And in truth, there are very few communities that have the number of members under 65 that we have. They're lucky if they have one or two. And we have, I think it's 44 sisters under the age of 65. So if any community is going to be able to go into the future, I think we're one of the few that can do that. So I really believe we have a responsibility, not just to bring our own community forward, but how can we be helpful to other communities that may not have the numbers that we have? So I have a great desire to be part of the program, but I also feel like I have a responsibility that our congregation has a richness that not everybody has. So I want us to use that richness in the best ways that we can. And I think, as Nancy said, you know, I too feel like I know some of the members around our age, but I certainly don't know everybody, and I don't know them to the extent that we're getting to know one another in this program. So I think for us to go into the future together, it's so important that we know what our gifts are, what our interests are, what our hopes are, so that we can build on one another's strengths as we go forward. So I too feel really excited and have enjoyed the short time that we've been together in starting this, and just eager to go forward. So I think, Helene, you're going to tell us a little bit about what our first weekend was like together.
Okay, great. So, sisters, I can't see you, so I'm just going to ask you to look at this. This is our agenda. Of course, you don't have to read it, but it was packed full with wonderful things that we did. We had many contemplative experiences, and we had videos. So I'm just going to give you a highlight of some of the great things that we did over the weekend. As Anne-Marie said, that it's a three-pronged experience, and you know, the relationship building was really strong in this weekend. So we did a lot of sharing, and one of the persons who spoke to us said that stories are data with soul. And I think if you, you know, think about all the stories we hear, they're like windows into the person's soul. So we invite you to sit back and come into the soul of the sisters of the first cohort. So the first thing we did was just enjoyed each other's company at the arrival. And we had an opening prayer, which was so beautiful. All of the prayer was contemplatively prayed, and it was usually poems that we would read very slowly and reflect on. And some of the poems were by David White. So they were just beautiful experience. Oh, two of them were by David White and John O'Donohue. So just powerful experiences just with the prayer alone. And then on Saturday morning, we began at 9 o'clock with a contemplative experience as well. Shortly after that, and the experience was, you know, again, praying with the poems. So it was about a 20-minute experience. After that, we watched a fantastic video by Brene Brown. I just loved hearing how she spoke about the power of vulnerability. And I have so many notes here, so I'm going to try not to read my notes and just talk to you briefly about the video. I think it's a great video for everybody to watch. One of the questions that were posed to us was, what attracts you? What are you resisting? And what questions do you have? So one of the quotes on the video was, living from the inside out. And Brene gave us six suggestions to help us with the road ahead in living The Powerfully Vulnerable Life. So I thought she was so, oh, she really just touched me in a way that was life-changing. So I would recommend watching Brene Brown and the Power of Vulnerability. So the first point that she says is be reckless. Be reckless with affairs of the heart. Can you imagine, sisters? Somebody's telling us to finally be reckless. It's so cool, you know, and really be passionate and fall in love with this life. I believe that at any age we can continue to still fall in love and have encouraged excitement about the day. And then she says to integrate our ignorance and failure, and take everything that is beautiful and bright and introduce it to that side of your shadow that needs a little more light. So anything where we need to grow, any failures, introduce it to our side of, you know, our shadow. And she says hospitality, be hospitable to strangers, no matter what. So that's something that I think the IHMs have down pat. Take on big jobs such as love. So I thought that the way she, you know, described that, I don't want to go into it too long, but taking on those big jobs such as love is really a wonderful challenge for us. And for the fifth point, she says violence comes from what we don't know what to do with our suffering. And she said, as we've heard 100 times, suffering can be transformed. So we have a little bit of a roadmap, and we have the power of vulnerability to go back and watch and to integrate that into our life. And she ended with the suggestion, and that was a quote from Saint Benedict, and it's very simple and powerful. We've all heard it before, and it says, daily keep your death before your eyes. And if we do that, small things stay small and big things find a priority. So it's very important, I think, to hold true to all of those 6 points, but the St. Benedict one was awesome. No, all of them were. Then after we watched the video, we processed and broke into small group conversation. We had lunch, and after lunch, we broke into other small groups. And we used this book. This book was mailed to us. Everybody got one in the mail except for me, but that's okay. I had to pick mine up later. I think someone in the neighborhood's reading my book. So anyway, it's called Strength Finders. You turn to the back, and it gives you a section right here where you have to go on the internet and register. Once you register, you take a test, a brief test, and you have to move quickly. You can't take your time on the answers. You have to just move on. And I think it's probably about 20 minutes, the test. After the test is over, this book will tell you your 5 top strengths. So we all discussed, every one of us did this, and we shared in small groups what our 5 strengths were. So I thought it was pretty interesting and right on target for me. So self-assurance was really, really a great one, because pretty much all of it's true. And communication, I'm not sure I agree with that one, although I am talking a lot right now. And there's 3 other ones, but maybe Anne-Marie will share her top 2, and Nancy can share her top 2 when we get going here. After we did the Strength Finders, we broke, and people who were going to Mass up in Manhasset, they went to Manhasset. I went down in Baltimore here later. And then we had a wonderful dinner together. And in the evening, a lot of us sat, or maybe 5 of us sat in the room, and honestly, we laughed for about 2 hours straight. So it was a really strong way to connect, just talking about fun and silly things that have happened. And the sisters also were telling old stories. So we all know how fun that can be when we're sharing stories with one another. And so again, that's windows into the soul. for Sunday, we opened again with a contemplative experience, and we did the John O'Donohue. We prayed the John O'Donohue poem, and contemplatively sat with it and spoke from that poem as well, and what God was saying within each of us. After that, Anne Marie talked to us about the grant that we received, and we talked about ways in which we can, give thanks to them, the people who gave us the grant. So anyway, that was pretty much just an overview of the weekend. If I left anything out, please feel free to help me out, Anne Marie or Nancy, whatever you remember was the highlight. And if you would, if the two of you could share your top 2 strengths, so that I'm not the only one. Nancy.
So one thing that I don't have my 2 top strengths, honestly, sister, off the top of my head, but
remember.
But I will try. But one of the things that I think is important is that between the first meeting at Our Lady of Grace and our next meeting, I think at the end of May, we meet individually with members of our group from that Imagining the Way Forward weekend. So I'm in a group with 5 other sisters, and we meet just like we are right now through Zoom, continuing to have dialogue about imagining the way forward. So it's not just one weekend and then we go to the next weekend. There are meetings between these 2 big, 4 big meetings. So just add that. Anne-Marie?
The other thing I can think of is that most of the resources, as Helene mentioned, we watched some of these videos together. Those videos are all online, and we'd be so thrilled if you were interested in seeing some of the same videos that we're watching. I think our greatest hope is that the whole congregation is going to be wanting to be learning the same things that we're learning. So if you have an opportunity to maybe come together at some point and watch, like the video that Helene told us about, the power of vulnerability. I believe that there was a group of our cohort who met with the sisters up at the IHM Center. And I think actually they watched that video together during their time. They did the same thing. They wanted to tell the sisters about what this program is, but we'd encourage you to watch those things and maybe talk together among yourselves too. I think the key to making our program and our efforts successful is that we don't keep it contained to just our group. So we're eager to interact with you, and we're trying to plan as follow-ups to our next weekends other ways that we can continue to connect with anybody that wants to connect with us and hear more about this and participate with us.
Mm-hmm. So, sisters, do you have questions for us? We've done a lot of sharing here, and might you have some questions or some clarifications for us?
I just want to add, not that we want to brag, but when we first started doing these video conference programs, we also used to do IHM videos. And the first one we watched was the Brene Brown. So we're way ahead of you.
Oh, wow. It's not surprising.
We're not surprised.
No, it's not surprising at all.
Actually, for those of you who know what TED Talks are, the Brene Brown talk on vulnerability is one of the top 10, and it's been viewed at least 1 million, if not 3 or 4 million times. I would also add, and I'd say this both Anne-Marie and Helene, Nancy, you might want to pass this on personally or onto your cohorts. Brene Brown has her own website. It's called Courage Works. She gives courses there. One of the first ones she does is a sample course that's for free. And it's based on a talk that you gave for Oprah's Soul Sunday. And it's called The Anatomy of Trust. And she takes each letter in the word trust and explains how, if you really want to trust another person, T will stand for this behavior. And obviously, you can tell I'm a big Brene Brown fan. And so her two main books are called Daring Greatly and Rising Strong. And she says, you know, I'm not terribly worried about the people who complain. I like the people who get in their arena and dare greatly. And so in her first video course, the first half was on the book Daring Greatly, and the second half was on the book Rising Strong, which is, you know, you feel vulnerable, you want to get up. And Rising Strong teaches you how to do that. And Katie Claus, in the education wing of our office that pays for courses, they paid for me to take the course. Though some of it was every week we do lessons and she had little videos, we also had live Q&A sessions, 3 of them. And if you've ever been to a Q&A session, as you begin, along the side is a scroll bar, so you see who else is going to be there. My first Q&A, there were over 3,000 people around the world.
Wow.
So, Emily, if any of your groups want to pursue Brene and her work, the first one obviously is about vulnerability, and then moves on to how to get out of it and to take care of yourself and rise strong. Check her website, Courage Works. Check the free course, Anatomy of a Trust, and check with your counselor, because it was like having your own private therapist.
Wow.
Wonderful.
Thanks.
So
Thank you, Patty. Thank you.
that's our little update. Could you, before I ask them questions, could you just speak to us a little bit about the role of Janet Mock in your process?
So Janet works with our planning committee. Actually, we're meeting this afternoon to plan the next weekend, which is the weekend of May 18th. And then Janet's present at each of our gatherings. She does some input. You know, she's got vast experience in leadership, and she also works with many other communities, their younger members. So she's got experience of, you know, what's happening with people our age and all around the country. So she gives some input, and then she facilitates the rest of our weekend together.
Anyone have any questions, Lily? Lillian?
I just wondered if any of the three of you would like to share what you found your particular strengths.
Well, Colleen remembered hers.
No, that's the biggest challenge. I know, I can remember one of mine, and it was futuristic. And it was, I never thought of it as a strength, and I never thought of it as being kind of a different way of seeing things, but it helped me to know why I usually am always thinking about what's going to happen, you know, 5 years down the road or 10 years down the road, which is one of the reasons why I was really excited about this program, because I think we should be thinking that far down the road, but I didn't realize it was considered a strength. So it helped to hear it named and to know that not everybody always thinks that same way. A lot of people are thinking more in the present.
Visionary is considered a strength.
Okay.
So I have all my material here. I just grabbed it. But I'll just tell you 2 things. One is a relator, and I am both an extrovert and an introvert. I'm right on the line in the Myers-Briggs. So relator, and the other one was another one of the 5 was developer, and so you know I was not surprised by that because I've tried to develop new programs and new buildings and new money and all kinds of things. So I was not particularly, surprised by what I found in my strengths. But it was nice to focus. We always tend to look at where we need to grow more and the things we need to improve in. But this was very much a very positive thing of these are your God-given gifts. Acknowledge them and use them for the good of the whole.
St. Kenneth?
Nancy, you speak of being a developer.
That's okay, I'll repeat it.
Okay.
I remember years ago, Sister Dora and I took an opportunity and advantage of your invitation to come to New York and help you to get an old school ready for new unwed mothers.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I remember it, Sister, I heard you, and I remember it well. And, I'm grateful for your service then, and I'm grateful for your memory today. Because really people would tell me you are crazy. You are absolutely crazy. And I'd say, yeah, I am a little crazy. But I think God blessed us a lot through our craziness. And a lot of children were helped because, we chose to be vulnerable.
Well, you were vulnerable because you lived in this building where you had to have a cage where they keep the building at night locked. And now we had a big police dog with us in the car. And we went through a neighborhood and said, "Now cut down because the driver get shot." And so we got to the place, and out to lunch. We had to take the dog with us too.
Yeah, probably for protection.
But our admiration for you began then, as to all the way you were helping those people, getting all those old schools ready for them to come in and live. You took care of that and take care of them. That's truly considerable.
Patty, I didn't hear all of what Sister said.
She's remembering helping you work with a program in New York. Do you invite them to come down and help set up that house?
Yes, Bethany House, Sisters.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently it was quite dangerous. You had a police dog.
Mm-hmm.
You were surrounded by fence.
Barbed wire.
If they went out, they had to take the dog with them.
Mm-hmm.
And they said that at that point in time, that's when they began their admiration for you.
Oh, well, thank you. We Sisters, everybody has done extraordinary things with their lives. And so, we are all blessed angels for sure.
Loretta's in the back. Loretta?
This is a question. Could you please let the sisters who are speaking and you please choose the microphone? It's all lost. We're students in that whole discussion so good.
I'll be happy to try it. Sometimes microphones have made it worse.
We didn't hear that, Patty, or I didn't hear it.
I didn't either.
Can you hear us better if we use a microphone?
Yes.
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 And my reason for confusion is when Zoom tells you to start, it says with the computer audio or with some other audio. So I always get afraid not to start with the computer audio, but that's right here. So, we've clarified that. Okay. Any other questions? Now that we've come to almost the end of the program and have discovered the microphone.
Thank you for the question. Aside from prayer, what can we do?
The question is, aside from prayer, it's reading and mountain, what else can we do for you? How can we be involved in the program?
Well, I think what we're doing today is a wonderful way to connect. If we, I don't want to speak for my other sisters, but if we could continue to share with you through Zoom, through this kind of experience, maybe we could journey together. You know, maybe we could have a less formal meeting instead of us giving you an overview. If we could just, if you could just talk to us, because I think you have a lot of wisdom that that we could use. And so I think that's another way. If we could continue the dialogue, for me, that would be very helpful.
Yeah, I would agree. Patty, could we even see if people would be interested in or doing this again, maybe after the next weekend?
Well, certainly. I think the only other video conference we have lined up is with the Nativity Miguel School next month. So we don't plan that far in advance because, like yourselves, we're often working with people who are, you know, involved in ministry and they don't want to say 4 months down the road weekend. So we'll be happy to do whatever in terms of maintaining this connection, maintaining our prayer. The other thing you can consider doing is, before Mass, Eleanor prays for a lot of things. And she told me, as we prepared for the last Journey article, that some of that comes by way of email requests to her, which she conveys to us prior to Mass. So that's another way to make sure that we're praying for those that happen. Loretta?
I think I can talk loud enough. Can you hear me? I think the way that we could grow the number of people in dialogue that the leadership education development committee started to do. There is one here in LLP, it's over there. Other because they have 17, everybody us and to speak from the heart. So if people here are not in dialogue, they will be
Patty, I didn't get any of that. No. Not.
Nancy,
Patty,
think-
didn't
I
use
think
the
we're getting some
microphone.
feedback.
Yeah, Patty, maybe if you didn't use the microphone just to tell us the question.
In Loretta, I don't know why. You know what? Mute. Can you mute?
Yeah.
All right, just nod if you can hear me.
Yes.
Now we can.
Yeah, just like that.
Loretta, and Loretta, if I don't finish off your comment, yeah. Loretta's talking about the way that we can be more engaged. Might be that we here get more involved in the dialogue groups, because the dialogue groups make us more and more familiar with the contemplative dialogue process.
Oh.
And we do have at least one group functioning here. Am I correct that the next meeting this summer at the Assembly, we're going to rotate and continue the process?
Right. So we'll form new dialogue groups in the summer. We've always seen these two programs as being kind of on parallel tracks, the Visioning the Future program and this program. So yes, I would agree that if the sisters there could be involved in maybe doing some of the readings, all of the handouts that Liz Sweeney used at her last retreat are available online. So people could be praying with those and dialoguing with one another with those questions.
Emily, if you wrote a grant for this, what did you put as the goals that you hope you accomplish?
Kind of what I mentioned before, that this cohort, the members who are under the age of 65 would be as prepared as possible for the future of religious life and the future of our congregation, that we would have increased confidence that we can bring the congregation forward and religious life forward, that we would, have people, I think, we all know that leadership will probably be done very differently when we're much smaller, so that we can figure out ways to administer the congregation as it needs to be administered, and empower people to be in mission and ministry in all kinds of maybe new ways.
So I'm conscious of time, and some of us need to go to the next meeting. So I'm wondering, sisters, if there's any final question or clarification.
No, I'm looking around for not nodding. Okay. Is there any?
Patty, we can't hear you, or I can't hear you very clearly.
Okay, now can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. If I use the microphone and I'm too close to the computer, this will be my assignment. If there's anything in particular you want us to pay for, let us know. When we sign off now, we're going to say our closing prayer from the prayer we keep in the chapel, but we're not going to make you endure this static feedback. I will check with Zoom as a good tech support, and it may simply be, maybe we shouldn't have to start with the audio and then the microphone will work. So I will track that down for next time. I call them technological mystery moments, and I'm going to figure this one out. So just so you know, we've recorded this. I will look at what it looks like and sounds like, and if it does work okay, we will at least post the link to it on the IHM list so that other people can see or hear the kind of information that you've shared with us. And I assume if you want to get back to us, even if we have more than one video conference a month, it's not like we have such an active social schedule here that we can't change bingo for talking to you. So please feel free to get back. Know that we're praying with all of you. We're aware that you have our history and our future in your hands. So, sisters, maybe we can just wave goodbye to them.
Thank you, sisters. God bless you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Patty. Thank you, Emery. Thank you, Helene.
Thank you, Nancy. Thanks, Emery. Bye, Patty. Thank you.
Bye-bye, sisters. Thanks for your time. Thank you, Patty.
Thank you, John Boy.